Have you seen me dice bag? The Grognard Files.
Hello, my name is Dirk the Dice, and this is the Grognard Files podcast, where we talk bobbins about tabletop RPGs from back in the day and today. I'm coming live from my den after returning home after another trip to UK Games Expo in Birmingham. The organisers measured the success of the event by its size and the footfall, and this time it was bigger than ever. Role-playing games made their presence felt more than previous years too. Dungeons and Dragons, Paizo, Modifius, Chaosium, Goodman Games and Free League were there, as were many other small press publishers. At times it was really busy in the trade hall. This year, our experience was affected by the long-running dispute between the rail operators / the British government with the railway unions, and Friday and Saturday were strike days. To avoid the disruption and to support the struggle, we travelled by alternative means. As you'll hear, our resolve was tested somewhat by events, bad planning and poor map reading skills. Throughout the weekend, there was a nagging suspicion that the rail strike was affecting us more adversely than anyone else that was there. This is not the normal format of the podcast. We'll resume normal service next time, but we hope you'll forgive this annual indulgence. I always suspect that it's like being trapped in the room of someone sharing their holiday photos of a camping holiday in Morecambe. There's no way out. Just nod along. During the weekend, I ran a game of Old School Essentials in the worlds of Planescape, and I ran Elric, effectively the 4th edition of Stormbringer, and played a game of Conan 2D20. I'm joined in the room and Zoom of Role-Playing Rambling by our resident rules lawyer, Judge Blythe, who GM'd Monster of the Week and Traveller and played Torchbearer. Going to Expo is about the games, but also about meeting friends and members of the Travelling Grog Squad, and this year was no exception. I joined 3 good friends on a panel on Saturday afternoon. The Repair Shop panel discussed games that we wanted to see revived. It was hosted by the ever-excellent Dr. Frankenstein himself, Dave Patterson, and I joined fellow panel members Steve Ray from All Anthrex's Gaming Vexes and games designer Paul Fricker from the Good Friends of Jackson Elias. You can hear the full discussion over at the Frankenstein's RPG feed. Go over now and hit the follow button. And there's an edited sample of the chat here, where we consider the enduring appeal of RPGs. I'll be back at the end of this with a few parish notices, but until then, Ramblers, let's get rambling.
Part 1.
Welcome to the room of Role-Playing Rambling. I've got Blythe with me and the fridge. Hello there, Blythe.
Hello, Dirk.
We're in the kitchen, aren't we? I think we're recording in here before, have we?
No, we're in the work kitchen now.
And so if you hear grumbles and groans, it's the various pipes doing their work in the background.
There is a geyser thing, isn't there? Bubbling away with hot water. Yeah.
Well, the only geyser I'm bothered about is you, and we're back. We're back on dry land after going to Birmingham. Wow, a lot of people kept saying to me, you look tired.
It's the gamer equivalent of a marathon, isn't it, Expo?
Yeah.
Because there is a relentlessness. You go down on the Friday and you play games and you go to the bar and you drink beer and you go back to your hotel and then you get up early to play more games and then you play more games and then you have more to drink and then you play more games. And it's exhausting. It is an exhausting thing, isn't it? People who don't game don't understand it. People say to me, what do you mean exhausting, you idiot? You're just off having a good time. I am having a good time, but it is exhausting.
And I feel bad this time because normally when I'm there, I take photographs and put it on Twitter. But I did pause this time before putting it out on Twitter because I feel like it was a privilege to go. It costs a lot of money, doesn't it, to go? It's not a cheap.
No, it's not. If you're going there for the weekend, it's a bit of a day, isn't it?
And it was like we called it the Uber Expo, didn't we?
Uber Expo, yeah.
Uber Expo. Is it not in the sense of Ubermensch?
No, in that sense. No, it's definitely not in that sense. So. But yeah, it is expensive. It racks up. And like you say, we want to stay near the NEC. It's expensive. And being in it's like, I mean, I know everyone talks about it. It's a hotel bar, £7 a pint. You think, blimey, that's a lot. When you're a northerner, that's a lot. I mean, Manchester prices have gone up recently, but £7 a pint, £20 for fish and chips. That's the thing I couldn't get over.
Yeah.
In the bar restaurant, you said, just get something to eat. And we looked at the prices and my eye was drawn as a yardstick for how expensive the menu was. Fish and chips, 20 quid. 20 quid.
And so I was pausing about putting pictures of having a good time on Twitter and rubbing people's noses in it because it feels like in the middle, because people are struggling, aren't they? Yeah. It does feel like a privilege to go on. So instead, I'm just going to do an hour's chat where we rub people's noses
in a chat, yeah.
But also we'll concentrate on the horrible bits as well.
Because the worst horrible bits, yeah, the worst.
Do you do mild? But before we get into that, I've got a prefab Sprout game for you to play.
All right.
Okay, as you know, when we were in the trade hall, we bumped into Pookie.
We always do.
We always do. It's
never out of that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's another element of the exhaustion as well. You've got the trade hall to consider, haven't you?
Yeah.
Which is huge and bewildering. And you feel somehow, in between all the games and socialising, you've got to fit that in. And it's quite difficult to do. But in the trade hall, you will encounter Pookie. It's almost inevitable.
Yeah.
It's inevitable. If it was like a wandering monster table, it would be roll a D20, 1 to 19, you bump into Pookie, 20, it's someone else. Yeah. That's what it would be like.
I think there's more of him than just one.
You could be, couldn't there? Yeah.
So Pookie is the reviewer extraordinaire of Reviews from Relier, the online blog. And we ended up somehow being his Sherpa.
You ended up carrying his bags.
Yeah.
Well, I felt a bit sorry for him. He was carrying all these bags and you just felt like he was like...
We felt like we had to help him, didn't we? Our Bob a job.
Pookie porters.
Huge bags filled with stuff that people had given him to review and stuff he bought.
Yeah.
Loads of them. Now, he's done a YouTube video where he's taken everything out of those bags. And me, like an idiot, has watched it.
No, I haven't.
And do you know how many things were in that bag? I worked out there's over 70 things.
No wonder my arms are aching.
And so what I thought is a little bit of a prefab Sprout game.
Okay.
He was pulling them out of this bag, like rabbits out of a hat.
Yeah.
And I'm going to give you, I think there's 5 of them here.
Okay.
4 of them are genuine. 1 of them I've made up.
So 4 of them are genuine things that Pookie has either bought or was given
to review.
Either or.
Yeah. First one.
Cool.
Fabula Ultima RPG. Okay.
Fabula Ultimate RPG. Are you giving me any more background information to these things?
Okay, I'll give you a bit more. Okay. This one's an RPG based on Japanese style console games. Does that help give you a bit more context?
A little bit, yeah. So what do you play? Do you play console game characters in it?
You create worlds as if they were a console game.
Oh, okay.
Like particularly Japanese consoles, like Final Fantasy and all that. Second one, a set of Scrubs RPG.
A set of Scrubs RPG. What's that about?
So it's a solo game.
Okay.
And you play a surgeon's garments as they pass through people during the day.
You what?
You actually play clothes. So you play clothes as they pass through people.
I'm instinctively thinking you made that up. But then again, it's so ridiculous that I'm not sure, could you even make that up?
A set of Scrubs. That's your second one.
So you play, you
can't get past this, can you?
No. Well, I just need to get my head around it. So here we go. It's our Wednesday night group.
Yeah.
Me, you, Alan, Steve, Mark, Joe. And you're going to run a set of Scrubs for us, right? And we're hiding our disappointment. but you're doing a set of Scrubs. where would it work? How would that work? Or do you not know enough about it?
It's a solo game. It's a solo.
Oh, it's a solo game, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you did say.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you all turned up, I'd just give it to one of you and say, play that.
Play around.
We're doing something better.
We're better than this. Yes.
You
It's a solo game.
Yeah. Solo game, set of scrubs.
It's not a role-playing game, though, is it? I get the idea. It's a game where you play Subsurgent Clause. If this is the fake one, I would be really annoyed with you. I'm thinking about it too much. Maybe you've just made it up. In which case, why am I bothering? Why am I interrogating the concept when it's some rubbish you've made up? Forget it. Move on.
Okay, next one. Okay. Balrogs and bookies. Balrogs and bookies.
Balrogs and bookies.
Do you want some more about that?
Is this about Balrogs going down to Ladbrokes or something?
No, it's an RPG set in a betting shop within a gladiatorial arena. Balrogs and bookies.
Balrogs and bookies. It's a role-playing game.
It's a role-playing game, yeah.
Okay. I can see that. I can see that working. The name seems like something you'd make up. But the concept seems reasonably sound. I can understand that. But would work, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Next one.
Go on.
First responders. First responders.
First responders.
Okay. This is a cipher system supplement where you pay fire officers. First responders.
That seems. If you made that up, that's pretty pedestrian. But that seems plausible. That I can see that. You can see someone might think, well, that would be an interesting role-playing game for some people if you play, like fire or.
What if I said you were playing firemen's helmets?
I'd say it's a solo game.
Right.
Go on.
Okay.
It's the final one now.
Right, last one.
All right.
Coffee and Chaos. Coffee and Chaos. A comedy tabletop RPG about running a cafe bar or restaurant. There you go. So which of those?
Okay. So the ones I'm drawn towards is obviously a set of scrubs.
Yeah.
Because that seems preposterous. Or Coffee and Chaos. Because that equally seems limited in scope. Mind you, it says something about me, doesn't it? I think that sounds made up because for me, role-playing games are all about death and violence and not running a cake shop. It just doesn't seem plausible, but I'm sure it is plausible.
I bet you
for some people.
I bet you could make somebody ordering a jacket potato with coleslaw.
Yeah.
Exciting.
There are things like that out there, I suppose. So I'm going to have to say set of scrubs. It's the fake one. I suspect it's not. I don't think you'd make that up because it's so, but if I'm being honest, that just strikes me as being.
Set of Scrubs is actually a solo game.
It's really solo game. I never get this right, do I?
Yeah, no. Yeah, you can see, Pookie pulling that into his bag.
So what's the fake one? What's the fake?
The fake one is Balrogs and Bookies.
You see.
Yeah. RPG set in a gladiatorial arena. I would love to play that.
That seems plausible, doesn't it?
Yeah. As you know, I did that at PBM back in the day.
Yeah, we got
Gladiator Design.
Yeah.
And it's always been my dream to have like an ongoing soap opera set with RPG set within an arena.
I should have seen that. Yeah, I could see that. You would make that up.
There we go.
Surprising. Some surprising stuff out there, isn't there? I think this is the thing with Expo. You go around the trade hall and you see all the familiar stuff. One of the things about Expo is people go around and they go to Freely, Modifius, KSC and whatever. And you look at the stuff and you think, well, yeah, I bought all that, haven't I? I bought it because I bought it online. But as well as that, there's all this other stuff there that you look at and think, I have no idea what any of this is.
Yeah.
It's not on my radar at all. And I know some of it is board games, card games and things like that, which aren't, I suppose, on our radar anyway. But there is sometimes role-playing stuff that you look at, like indie stuff, where you think, never heard of this at all.
It was quite noticeable this time, I think, that there was more of a RPG presence. I think because Wizards had D&D there, and there was Monty Cook Games, and Free League had a bigger...
They had a big stand.
Bigger stand in there than they would, they have done in previous years.
Yeah.
So it just felt like, RPGs were making a presence. But you're right, in that second hall, there's quite a few of those small press publishers, isn't there, with small press RPGs.
Yeah,
in many ways, they look more attractive in the way that they're presented.
Yeah.
But they've got a bit of a difficult sell because they're usually selling them at the same price as a kind of mainstream book.
And as well, if you don't know what it is, you're drawn to it, but if you don't know what it is, you don't know much about it, you might be reluctant to buy it. But obviously it's a good opportunity to find those kind of things, isn't it? See those kind of things.
And you find that those people who are on those small press stalls really work hard, don't they, to try and get the customer. It's good to see them, really, the enthusiast for the
Yeah, it
games.
is. It's tough thing, isn't it? Tough thing to sell these things, because it's still, even though there's thousands of people there and all that, we always say, it's still, relatively speaking, a minority pursuit, isn't it? Certainly for the indie games. So even if D&D 5e is very popular, it's still, those indie games aren't really on those people's radar, are they? So, yeah.
We had a very limited time in the trade hall this time. Last time we made a point of schlepping around, didn't we, and doing it systematically. This time we had less time. And that was partly caused by the epic journey that we had tonight.
Epic journey, yes. Yes, the journey down.
Are you sure it's my round?
Been very close, didn't we, to not going?
Yes.
Because we knew that on Saturday the trains were on strike. But we had a train booked for Friday, and we were coming back on a train on Sunday. So it was just, well, all right, we'll maybe get a cab from the hotel to, we normally get a train, but it's only this Saturday, it'll be okay. And then about 2 or 3 weeks before Expo, was it ASLEF?
ASLEF, yeah.
They announced a strike on the Friday. And it was like, oh no, so the Friday and the Saturday. So we had to cancel the train.
Yeah.
On the Friday. And there was a point, wasn't there, where we did think, shall we not bother? It's going to just be really hard work getting there,
Yeah.
But we ended up getting a National Express coach. Didn't really want to drive, did we?
No.
So we got a National Express coach.
We've got National. I've not been on a coach for quite some time.
No, I've not. That's a long time since I went on a coach trip,
Yeah, and I was picturing it like the Divine Comedy song I was expecting.
Jolly Hostess.
Jolly Hostess. There wasn't, was there?
There wasn't, no.
Kind of a surly fella who kept looking at a clipboard. And they had to breathe into the machine, didn't they, before they had settled?
Yes, that was interesting, wasn't it? It was like a breathalyzer thing. They had to breathe into it. Yeah. And they had to register that they were okay to drive before it would kind of go. Yeah, it was interesting, that was.
I thought it was inflating the tyres.
Just blowing the tyres up.
We were at the front, weren't we?
Right.
Everything was perfect.
On paper, it was okay, because it takes about 2.5 hours to get to Birmingham, which is longer than the train. But the coach itself is quite a comfort. You think this is all right as an alternative, isn't it?
And then we were sailing down the motorway.
Yeah.
And it was going fine. And you said, we'll get there. We'll check in early. We paid to check in early. We'll go in the trade hall, and then we've got games at 3:00. We'll play our games at 3:00. It'll be fine. It's going well. And then we hit the traffic
But we never really stopped hitting it.
No.
Until we got to Birmingham.
No.
It was about an hour and a half late, wasn't it? Something like that.
Yeah, it was a painful process. The driver decided that he'd come off the motorway and he was moving sluggishly.
You were getting annoyed.
I was getting...
You were getting annoyed about the toll road. You didn't go on the toll road.
He didn't go on the toll road. He had a perfect opportunity to go on the toll road.
It's 13 quid on the toll road.
Yeah, I'd have paid it.
I'd have given him 13 quid.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll pay. Get on the toll road. Got games to play.
Nobody goes on the toll road because you have to pay for it. And that includes National Express.
I've been on the toll road.
Yeah.
Do you know what? It's good. Do you know why it's good? Because nobody goes on it. It's worth the money because no one's on it. That's what's good about it.
So it was a painful journey.
It was.
Because all that sunshine caused a sweatiness.
Yeah.
Those seats
hot coach. Yeah.
And sticky, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Anyway, we arrived in Birmingham. And then we had to get from Birmingham to the NEC.
I think it's worth saying at this point as well, because as this story unfolds, people may think that this is plausible and we're making stuff up.
Yeah.
But Jonathan was with us, wasn't he?
Yeah.
There was a third party who could verify.
Independently verify.
Verify that this
next aspect
is true.
Yeah.
It did happen. So we got to the hotel, didn't we? We checked it. That was fine.
Yeah.
And then we thought we need to get to X1 bus, the
X1 bus.
to get to the NEC. We made the mistake. It didn't seem like a mistake at the time, but we made a mistake of asking the lady behind reception, didn't we?
At the hotel, yeah.
How do we get to the
concierge?
The X1 bus? It was on a particular road, wasn't it?
Yeah.
We said, how do we get to here? And she said, oh, well, it's just down there. So it's quicker if you cut through Primark. You cut through Primark, and you get onto the Moore Street entrance, so the other side of Primark. It's quicker.
And if you've seen races across the world, it was like we'd been given a bit of local knowledge that was going to give us the edge over.
In fact, I think you said, here we go, local knowledge, that's what you need.
Yeah, tap the side of my nose, a bit of local knowledge.
You know, local knowledge is good. If only that local knowledge extended to once you get into Primark, how the hell do you get out of it? And we did, and this is true, end up lost in the lingerie department of Primark. The three of us wandering around the ladies' underwear department. And what was worse than that was taking a sharp right in Primark and ending up in a beautician's.
The
beautician was worse than the underwear.
People having treatments.
And these very well turned out young ladies, I looked at these three middle-aged men.
Sweating at this point.
In weird t-shirts. Wandering around. And I looked at us as sort of great fence, really. Like, what the hell are you doing in here?
Yeah. Why are you disturbing me threading?
Yeah. What are you doing with your eyebrows? What's all that about?
Yeah.
I don't understand it. Anyway, yeah. So we then resorted to asking one of them, how do we get out of here? How do we get out of here?
We're in here, we don't know how to get out.
No, we're time travellers or something, wasn't it? It's free from another dimension. How the hell do we get out of here?
So then we found our way out. The sign said, integrated transport system.
Yeah. That's what the sign said.
An integrated transport system. Now, we failed our map reading role, didn't we? Because
I think it's fair to say we may have fumbled it.
Yeah.
More than failed it.
So the bus stop was somewhere on the road around the train station. However, there was about, 30 of them?
Yeah. There's a lot of bus stops. That sounds like a good thing, doesn't it? That sounds like a good thing. There's a lot of bus stops. There's a lot of buses. That's a good thing, isn't it? It's only a good thing if you know which one you want, where the bus stop is. Otherwise, it's a nightmare because you just think, there's loads of them.
And on the map, it tells you which one you need to get to.
Yeah.
We don't make it very clear because it's the opposite way around to reality. Whereabouts that said bus stop is in relation to where you are now. So it's fair to say that I was running.
Well, outrage. It's a dangerous thing to do, isn't it?
Yeah, I was running.
Yeah.
I checked every single bloody one of those.
Yeah, street maps with you are here. All right. I know I'm here, but I don't want to be here. I want to be at the bus stop. How do I get there? No use at all. Absolutely no use.
And at one point we saw an X1 and chased it. Like a dog.
Yeah. Like dogs chasing a bus, yeah. Like lunatics. We'd realised we weren't going to make our Friday afternoon game.
I know.
Which is a bit disappointing. That was quite disappointing.
Yeah.
We were quite bad about that. We weren't going to make them.
It was like playing, because by this point it was like 3:00, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And we spent about 40 minutes trying to find that bus stop, didn't we? And I said, right, I'm going to ask.
Yeah.
I went into the train station, the integrated transport system. I asked the person there, and she said, I don't do buses.
No, integrated.
It's
integrated.
I don't do buses.
I don't do buses. Well, you should. It's integrated.
And by accident, I stumbled across the one we wanted. And then there was a bus there. So I kind of did hand signals to Jeff, because we split the party, haven't we?
That was another mistake we made. We split the party, yeah.
So you two came puffing over the hill, running, and it set off on its way. And we resigned ourselves.
To wait another 20 minutes then.
20 minutes.
But then even when we got on that, it goes to Coventry, doesn't it? It says it goes to Coventry.
Yeah.
And we sat there for a bit. We thought,
are we on the right one?
Are we on the right one here? Is it not going the other way, is it? I mean, Coventry. Right, end up in Coventry, are we?
No.
But we didn't. In the end, we didn't. But it did go. around the houses.
Because the other thing that happened is that the bus in front that we ran to get broke down, so all the people that were on that bus filled up.
Yeah.
It was hot. It was hot, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was hot and sweaty, and there was various aromatic substances being
There were
smoked.
certain smells, weren't there? Which, not all of which were legal.
And we convinced ourselves then, right, it doesn't matter. We can just get something to eat.
Yeah.
And have a look around the trade hall. And that's what we did, didn't we? We entered the Ballardian nightmare that is the NEC.
And wandered around.
And we saw this remote place on the edge of the runway. And the bus stopped, didn't we? The bus stopped.
Didn't it?
And we said, who the hell's stopping here?
Yeah.
And it turns out that's where Jonathan
was staying, yeah.
in the middle of nowhere.
Middle of nowhere. It was like a strange little house, wasn't it? We went past it, didn't we?
Yeah. Like a shack in the middle of the motorway, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was like
We got there eventually. I think he set us up for the rest of the weekend. That's what I said to you, I think, at one point. All I want to do is be walking down that concourse to the trade. That's all I want to do. Be happy when I'm doing that.
Ignore this. It's a rug covering a hole.
And he said to me, right, Dirk, this might be your only chance to go in the trade hall, because for the rest of the weekend we booked up, haven't we, on games? And
Yeah, that is the thing. Booked up on games, and you were doing that panel and things, and you think, well, you're not going to get much chance to go around this trade hall, really.
No.
Yeah.
No. So we had a look round. That was Friday, wasn't it? We had a look round there, and the free league had quite good deals on their books. I picked up a couple of those. I bought the Forbidden Lands bestiary.
Yeah.
Which is, if I never play it, it's lovely to look at.
It's good when they have good deals on, because the Goodman Games had some good deals on. They were selling the DCC rulebook for £10, weren't they?
Yeah, so it's 15 quid on the Friday.
It's 15 on the Friday, and it was £10 on the Saturday, because I went back on the Saturday. I ended up buying it, even though I've got a copy. I bought it again because I thought, it's nice to have a spare copy in it. One you can get out of the table and not worry too much if it gets a bit of coffee spills on it or something. But at the £10, you think, why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
You know. And I saw loads of people bought that rug. Loads of people bought it. Quite a good strategy, really, to kind of, flood the market with your game, really.
And quite good because they've just opened an online store in the UK.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they've opened it, or they've opened it. Yeah, yeah.
And so it's quite sensible to get it out there so people can play it.
Yeah.
Now, when I was going past there in the DCC thing, these books caught my eye. Well, one particular book, it's a huge book, Judges Guild book, and the second volume is a collection of all the, it's like facsimiles of the Judges Guild stuff that came out in the late 70s, early 80s, and Jacques, the artwork, and I kept looking at it, and I was quite impressed, and I was drawn to it, but they were way too big, so I passed on them. So I went to, we then went to the bar.
You did pass on, but at that moment I had all those premonitions I often have. I wouldn't want to that. I'm beginning to think sometimes about like a sixth sense, but only in relation to you and stupid purchases. It's of no use in any other respect. But anyway, we'll come on to that.
So we went to the bar and the hotel bar. And what chatterage did you have? What was the gossip you picked up from the streets? Did you get any? Or can you not remember it?
Gossip from the streets?
Yeah, isn't that what you're supposed to? If we, what do they call it in a role-playing game? If you go into a bar, we'll find out.
Or get some rumours.
Rumours
from the locals.
Yeah. I think in Gumshoe they call it scuttlebutt. To get the scuttlebutt, you can roll.
Right. I don't know. Did I get any rumours? Did I get anything? Did you see anything? I don't think I did.
On the Friday, I was talking to Paul Fricker, and he was giving me some podcast recommendations.
All right, okay.
And one that I've started listening to. I know that you're not a massive fan of podcasts, eh?
No, especially this one.
Yeah. But he recommended one called Filthy Ritual.
Okay.
Filthy Ritual. It is very good. It's a story. It's a confidence trick.
Right.
And the setup is that this woman is preying on people in Hampstead. So quite a well-to-do area. And she's getting them to hand over money, which she says she'll nail to a tree in South America, in the Amazon, and they will get spiritual benefits from it. She doesn't explain how the shamans
give her some money.
So give you, Blythe, if you give me 10 grand, you know that
a lot of money, not 5 of that.
Yeah, a lot. Give me 10 grand.
Yeah, 10 grand.
And you know that boil you've got on the back of your neck?
I haven't got a boil on the back of my neck.
But
You made that up. But go on, if I have. Yeah.
If you've ever got a boil on the back of your neck, it'll be gone. It'll be gone, and it'll alleviate it because the shamans over.
So what do you do with the 10 grand? What do you do with that? Give it to the shamans?
Give it to this woman who will take it to the shamans.
Right.
Is that a shaman? The shaman over in South America. Nail it to a tree.
Nail the money to a tree.
Nail the money to a
tree.
Nail
the money to a tree.
Nail the money. That's part of the ritual.
So me £10,000.
£10,000.
£50 note. It's going to be nailed. Each note nailed to a tree.
Nailed to a tree.
In the Amazon.
Yeah.
And the shaman's going to do some ritual, and then the boil on the back of my neck.
Now, you think that is preposterous? Who would fall for that? But
yeah, I'm thinking that immediately. Who would fall for that?
But people fell for it in number. So they ended up like millions and millions of pounds. This woman managed to get in this area.
Maybe she sells it differently than you did.
Well, obviously, because I'm not a confidence trickster.
You're not a confidence trickster, right?
No.
Yeah, that's it. And you told me it was about a confidence trick. If you hadn't,
you might
maybe I'd fallen for it.
Yeah,
who knows?
Because those boils can
cause
annoyance.
But then again, maybe I wouldn't.
And that was it opened up a conversation about how does it seem that people who are wealthy or intelligent, and wealthy and intelligent, these people that who were remarked were people like solicitors and people who, in the normal run of life, you'd say, well, they've fallen for that. But they did. And there's a vital link in this, a great character called Keith, who's an osteopath, who was kind of her conduit to his client list.
Right.
He unwittingly exposed his client list to this woman. There's also stuff involving fridges, decaying meat, and a monkey, but I won't go into that. But yeah, it's worth
Okay. Crazier than the Scrubs game.
Yeah, crazy. That was main topic of conversation on the Friday.
Yeah.
Saturday's the big day, isn't it?
Saturday's the big gaming day, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Up early.
A bit too early.
Bit too early, yeah.
Yeah. I had my first game at 9 o'clock.
Yeah. And we got an Uber.
We got an Uber,
didn't we? Yeah.
And at a reasonably priced Uber. Because we should say that we got an Uber back home.
Oh, yeah.
That night. Which wasn't reasonably priced.
Was not reasonably priced.
Yeah.
I think the Uber drivers and taxi drivers at Birmingham would have worked out that due to the rail strike, there were lots of stranded gamers at the Metropolitan Hotel.
We handed over quite a lot of money, and it wasn't even nailed to a tree.
It wasn't even nailed to a tree. All we got was a taxi drive. It's still the boil on the back of our neck.
Which on the train takes about 15 minutes, but somehow in an Uber, I don't know, they bend time and space.
It's a weird thing, isn't it, driving to NEC? It seems, I think I said to you at one point, you see a sign that says city centre 4 miles, or on the other way it says NEC 4 miles. And you think, well, we're on like a dual carriageway going quite full, we'll be there in a minute.
Yeah.
And it takes forever. Yeah. It takes forever to get there. Strange thing, isn't it? Like you said, the train is, 10 minutes, isn't it?
10 minutes, yeah.
10 minutes to Birmingham International, that's it. But yeah, in a car, it's kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
But anyway, we got there in the morning, yeah. I had my first game at 10.
Yeah, mine was at 9, and I was hampered by the fact that the room I was in, the Westminster, wasn't on any map.
No, does it?
No. And in their wisdom, they decided to put these big digital signs with the logo on each room of the UK Games Expo, confirming that you were actually there where you should be. And then in tiny writing on a white letters on a white background, it had the room name. So throughout the weekend, you saw people kind of scrunching their eyes up, leaning up, trying to find it. Anyway, I ran a Planescape in the morning.
Yeah.
I was a bit apprehensive about the Planescape game. It was a scenario that I'd taken from the Well Worlds, which is like a scenario collection. And although I've been reading quite a bit about Planescape, I've only played that great mod run March at Virtual Grog Meet. And I'm just getting a sense of kind of the background and all the information they're setting. So I was a bit concerned whether I would get somebody who was like the resident expert on Planescape and the mythology. I needn't to worry. All the players were great. It was a fantastic thing. They really got into it. They really got into the game. And I had to make quite a few changes to the scenario because it was one of the, I find with some of those Planescape ones, when you read them, you think, oh, that's really entertaining. But then you realise, but there's nothing for the players to do. There's nothing for the players to interact with.
It's a good story, but that's not really what you want, is it? You want things for players to do. Yeah.
Yeah. So I ended up with some old school stuff of like crossing rivers and negotiating. There's all this thing with the Batsu, because you were employed, you didn't realise you were employed by a Batsu who was sending a love letter to one of those Teneri. And we kept getting muddled up between our demons and devils. It's very easy to do. So this Batsu couldn't enter the abyss because it was owned by the Teneri, but so every year he was sending a love letter to this succubus who was in a tower, you see. And this succubus was trapped in the tower because the rest of the Teneri assumed that she was some kind of spy for the Batsu, but couldn't work out why, you see. So there's various encounters along the way. And we really played up on the old school element of it. So they had a 10-foot pole that wasn't quite long enough.
Oh, quite long enough.
Yeah.
10.5 feet.
Quite funny. And it was entertaining, but what I realised, like I do very often with these convention games, is that it all starts off when the fighting starts, everything slows down a bit.
Yeah.
And it's hard to keep people's attention during a fight scene.
Once the turns start.
Yeah, once the turns start, everything slows down a bit. I think everybody enjoyed the kind of playing into the situations, but then when there was a battle, it kind of slowed down. So I ended up the epic battle at the end being more of a chase.
Yeah.
So I didn't slow down just to speed it up. And what were you playing in that morning?
I ran Monster of the Week in the morning.
Yeah.
The Wells of Manhattan. An adventure I've written. Adventure's what I've wrote. An adventure I've written. Which I enjoyed. I enjoyed running it. It's a good game, Monster of the Week. I've said this before. It's a very good game. Very easy to run. Only drawbacks with Monster of the Week, I suppose, are it's hard sometimes to stretch it out because it's not improvised, not an improvised game because there is a scenario and things will happen. But there's a lot of kind of wiggle room in it for players to do what they want. In those Powered by the Apocalypse games, it's very much about them rolling dice and either succeeding, failing, or of course, success but kind of drives some of the action. So if people succeed, sometimes it moves things on quicker than you might want. Yeah, that's one of the, it's not a drawback as such, but it's just a quirk I find of Monster of the Week. I mean, I'm not particularly familiar with other Powered by the Apocalypse games, but Monster of the Week has that thing of, you can run a decent scenario in, say, 2.5 hours, and quite a lot will happen. But if you try to run it for 3.5 hours, there's a thing of, well, you might struggle with that because, it rewards like players can be inventive. It's quite cinematic. And I suppose unlike Planescape, you don't, even though a fight's in it, you don't have a turn based. It's not turn based. No. So it can be quite fluid. So it's not as though you can go, right, you're going to have here's a fight, 5 players, roll initiative, right, what are you doing? Right, you're doing that, what are you doing? What are you doing? And those kind of things do extend the game quite considerably, don't they? Like you say, it slows things down.
Yeah.
Like a fight happens. But in Monster of the Week, you have fights, but it doesn't really slow it down.
Yeah.
You know, but that's not a bad thing, because it's quite an inventive game, and there's a lot going on, and your players bounce off each other and you bounce ideas off them, and that's great. But it does mean it can be quite a quick game.
Yeah.
You're looking at the watch thing. Normally you look at the watch in a role-play game when you're running a convention game, you think, maybe there's a lot to do. It's 12 o'clock. It's only another hour, and there's a lot to do. Whereas in Monster of the Week, sometimes you have the opposite problem. And also, I suppose, not having turns, you, as a games master, you have to manage the players a bit more, because you have to keep your eye on people who are sitting in the background and maybe not saying and doing things, because other people are a bit more dominant.
Yeah, so drawing.
Yeah, you've got to, because again, with a turn-based game, it will be your turn.
Yeah.
Even when you're a quiet player, they will look at you. And
I think we said that last year, didn't we, about the advantage of turn-based games, is that make sure that everybody have a chance to contribute.
Yeah.
I think it's the tyranny of the convention slot, isn't it? That you've got time that you feel that you need to fill.
Yeah.
You don't really, do you? You could finish it early.
No. This finished about half an hour early. And I suppose the other thing with Monster of the Week is you have the advantage that you can spend some time creating characters at the table with the playbooks, because that's the way you do it, isn't it? So that's quite good fun as well, because people create characters that you're not necessarily expecting.
Yeah. The other element of the tyranny of con games is I decided to have 6 people. And I realised when I was sat there, and I did it again on Sunday, that it's a while since I've run a game for quite so many people. And it does. Yeah.
It's funny how one extra, like that, 5, some games, depends on the game. Some games work very well with 5 players. I'd say I had 5 players for Monster of the Week, but I would say it probably works better Monster of the Week with 3 or 4 players.
Yeah.
Partly because of that thing of there's no turns, and it's very much a sense of, rather than saying, what do you want to do? It's more about players telling you what they want to do.
We found that with the gun, didn't we, when we did it? When I had 6 players. When we did it for the Moorcock weekend, it's just, when you do those narrative games, fewer players, makes it better, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. But I do think it's one of my favourite games, Monster of the Week. I think it's a great game, and every time I play it, people enjoy it and do kind of engage with it, even if you've never played it before. The playbook way of creating characters and the ideas on the playbooks fire people's imagination, and they all come up with characters that they quite like and that they want to play. And that's again, you're not handing them a pre-gen.
No. There was a point when I was playing on that Saturday morning when I thought, this reminds me of why I like running convention games. Because we're playing a couple of people I knew on the thing from the Grog Squad, but there were others that I didn't know. And stuff that people were coming up with was really good. The characterization of the characters had coming up with some inventive ways, but it was just somebody saying, because they're making some questionable decisions along the way. One of the players said, "Are we the worst things in hell?" I thought, that's brilliant.
And that is the good thing about Expo, that I think we've said in previous years that there's an element of Wild West about it, that you don't know who you're going to get. And occasionally you get someone that you think, blimey, I sure want to play with you again.
Yeah.
But generally you don't.
No.
Generally you don't. Those people stick in your mind a bit more. But generally the people you meet and the experiences you have are good, they're good.
Positive.
They are positive, they're different. And it's good because you get a different demographic as well.
That we normally
play with, and that can be a good thing as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. The younger players at the table at Planescape, and the perspective really pepped it up. That it was good to have it. Then it was on for the seminar.
Oh, you did your seminar. I was still running my game when you were doing your seminar.
Yeah. So let's have a break now.
Yeah.
And we'll come back in a bit.
Mm-hmm.
The Repair Shop. Before we put anything on the workbench, we're going to ask ourselves a question. Why have role-playing games had such an enduring appeal? And I don't know if you know, but 50 years to this day, we've got this from Games Letter, produced on June the 1st in 1973. And it says this. Are you ready? Miscellany. Alistair McIntyre sends the following news items. Gary Gygax and Dave Arneson are compiling an extensive set of rules for fantasy campaigns. Gary is very interested in collecting more fantasy gamers. Contact him at 330 Centre Street, Lake Geneva, WI 5. I think it's expired now. don't you waste a stamp. So 50 years this month, according to the game historian John Peterson. It's the first twinkle in the eye of Dungeons and Dragons. Ooh. A few months later, D&D was published, and 50 years, and we're all still here. We're still playing it. It's Outsea, Cabbage Patch, those little clacker things, Tamagotchis, Noel's House Party, Cabbage Patch. It's outlasted Teddy Ruxpin, everything. But why has it endured? Why has it lasted so, despite all the ups and downs it's experienced along the way, why do we keep playing role-playing games?
Dave Patterson.
If you've sort of been adjacent to the hobby or you actually get back into the hobby, it's been a fantastic way to make friends with people doing something that is rather an odd kind of exercise, but actually becomes very participative and gets everybody back into it. So there's a lot of people in this room whom I would say are very good friends. So I would say one of those things is very definitely the social aspect. So why do role-playing games carry on? Something that you go away from a table most of the time, remembering something that's happened, and you're drawn into this sort of epic storytelling type thing. I could be a little bit pseudo-intellectual and say it's replaced the bonfire or the campfire and telling tales around the campfire. Replace that with, VTT and a computer screen. But, that's kind of the idea, I think.
Paul Fricker.
20 years ago, and I'm sure some of you can remember 20 years ago, seminars at Dragon Meet about I don't think this was the title of them, but this was pretty much the premise: the death of role-playing games. Is it all dying out, and is it all fizzling away? Because it did feel a bit that way, which is hard to conceive now, because now it's like those seminars are things that died out. And then 10 years ago, we saw a massive change, I think, with the new edition of D&D. And when I was working on the new edition of Call of Cthulhu, I can remember one of the things I did was listen to actual play. There was Skype of Cthulhu. There was one show. There was maybe like one or two others, but there really wasn't very much. Now, there's you guys, there's a whole range of actual play shows and podcasts. So as a role player, time was, you could have your lonely fun reading your rule book, or, you only had in-person gaming. So you'd only do it occasionally, or you'd be writing scenarios or planning it or thinking about it or whatever. But that was kind of in your head or on paper. Now you've got the whole thing of being able to live it vicariously through, contact with it. Almost, you could pretty much do it 24 hours a day.
Steve Ray.
The thing about role-playing, whether you're a GM or a player, actually the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. It's something where if you see a group of people playing around a table, it's not that they're a piece of, okay, maybe, if you're using theatre of the mind, you can't see anything happening. But for those people involved, there's magic happening in a lot of ways, in as much as you can see there's people totally involved, they're loving what they do, they come back week after week, day after day to actually to play that. As you say, people enjoy it in a whole range of different ways, whether you're watching actual plays or participating or just buying the books and reading them. I think it is something you can engage in whatever suits you, really.
Part 2.
Welcome back to the Zoom of Role-Playing Rambling. We're doing this second part over the phone. We have to fit these in when we can, don't we, Blythe?
We do. We've used every means at our disposal.
So that was the seminar that I did with Dave Patterson, Paul Fricker and Steve Ray. I made a mistake, Blythe.
Not like you.
The idea, the concept was that it was like a repair shop. People brought games that hadn't been revived, they thought were great for revival. So it was some time ago, and like all of these things with conventions, I decided what I was going to do a distance ago and thought I'll think about it later.
I'm sure you'll be able to say something.
Because the rest of them made very solid pitches based on their examination and a genuine love and desire to revive the game. But when I come to look at Space Opera, Fantasy Games Unlimited, I realised that pure nostalgia. We didn't play it, did we? It was just that desirable object that was in the game store, and I just liked the cover.
Yeah, it was there on the shelf in Odyssey 7. Quite expensive, out of reach because it was on the top shelf. Also a bit confusing. I remember wondering at the age of about 13, what's Space Opera? What's that? What is Space Opera? What's opera going to do with it? I didn't really realise a space opera is like a soap opera. It never clicked with me. I remember thinking it was a really funny title for a game.
The idea of it being an opera gave it a sense of gravitas and that it would be serious-minded. And
you might have thought that. I just thought it sounded stupid.
Anyway, I had a read of the game and it is so complicated. And suffice to say, I didn't win that seminar, but it was a good thing to do in the afternoon. I saw the whole idea of these seminars is just somewhere for people to come and have a sit down, isn't it, when they've been around the trade halls.
Was it a case with your game as it was more like the beyond repair shop? Nothing to do with this one. Have it back.
There were only about 3 people who looked like they were falling asleep anyway, so I'm putting that down as a success. Thanks to Millie for arranging it. It was really good fun. So what did you play? We had a couple of games, didn't we? We played a game each, didn't we, on the Saturday afternoon. What did you do? Remind me.
I played Torchbearer. It's based on Burning Wheel, isn't it? The Burning Wheel system.
Oh, I don't know. I know very little about it. I know a little about it, and the first thing I have to say is that the title sounds a bit rubbish. It can be a sword bearer. You can be an axe bearer, but a torch bearer sounds a bit mundane.
Well, yeah, but I suppose that's the point, really. I think the point of it is it is a game about the grind and difficulty of dungeon exploration. So it's very keen on the idea that, the longer you're down in the dungeon, underground, the more detrimental the effect will be, and you've got to worry about light and provisions and stuff. It's survivalist, I suppose. And so I suppose the torchbearer thing is the idea that maybe the most important thing when you're in a dungeon is a torch, as in being able to see.
Right.
When it comes to the crunch, if someone says you're in a dungeon, you're underground, there's no light, you can have a sword or a lantern or torch. In actual fact, the thing that's going to help you survive is the torch, not the sword, because you can see and run away. Whereas the sword, you can't see any. I suppose that's the gist of it. Because that's where the name comes from. But it's based on the Burning Wheel system, which I don't know has a reputation. Burning Wheel, I think, has a reputation for being complicated, and Torchbearer is quite complicated. I say complicated. It's not so much that it's complicated. The basic system is quite straightforward. It's like a D6 dice pool system. You have a target number, you roll lots of D6s, and if you get a 4, 5, or 6, that counts as a success, and a 1, 2, or 3 is a failure. So roll 6 dice, and you need 3 successes, that kind of thing. So it's not complicated from that point of view, but there's a lot of moving parts to it. One of the tricky things with the guy who ran it was it does become like a demo game almost. But he did a good job of it. And it was useful because I am running it for our one-shot club, aren't I? Because I quite like it. When I signed the game, I got the PDF. I read the rules, and there's a lot to it. But it's kind of an interesting game. It talks about it being like these games do. It's like a love letter to the old OSC, the old school OSR kind of games, But it's nothing like an OSR game, apart from the fact it's in a dungeon and there's dwarves and elves and wizards and stuff. But as a system, it's nothing like those kind of D&D hybrid things, where there's it's a bit like D&D with a few tweaks. It's nothing like that at all. it's a world away from that.
I have heard of Burning Wheel, and I know that there were some games of that at last year's Expo, but I know very little about it. So, yeah, I'm intrigued to find out how it plays. There's nothing wrong as well with these conventions, particularly Expo, more than any others, that it's pitched as a kind of demo game. Because the game I played was very much like a demo game in a sense.
Yeah. And I think that was the right way to run it, because there is a lot going on. If you never play, I mean, I had the advantage that I'd read the rules, but other people hadn't. They'd come to it completely cold. But all the ways you can augment a role and some of the consequences of a role and that kind of thing, you need to kind of have quite a bit of knowledge to really understand it. And it actually says, it's interesting because in the rules, the open paragraph, I think in one of the rule books says that it's, even though I'm running it as a one shot, says it's not really a one shot game. It is a game that you benefit from playing a number of sessions of, because it has a campaign structure of, you go to the dungeon, you have the adventure, you set up camp, you go back to the town, you spend money, you might have debts, you might have people, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's a game that, like a lot of these games, isn't it? We've talked about this a lot. Sometimes you can do it as a one shot. It was perfectly enjoyable as a one shot, and I'm sure it will be enjoyable when I run it as a one shot. The full flavour of the game is one where 10, 15 sessions of it will give you a real sense of what's going on.
It's and I think last time in the last podcast we talked about 6 sessions being the sweet spot, and it was afterwards I was reflecting that in Powered by the Apocalypse, the original game, they pitch it at 6 sessions, don't they? That's in order for it to operate, you need to have those 6 sessions for you to get the full thing out of it. And I think more and more you see in these games that are saying you need a bit of time for this to bed in, and it's not suitable for just getting a flavour of it in one game.
Yeah. And the guy running it said that. He said he ran it regularly at a games club, and he started off doing a couple of one-shots with it, but people wanted sort of more of it because they realised that there was a kind of depth to it that they wanted to kind of explore. So what it tries to do is focus on the things that in a lot of games are hand-waved.
Yes.
You go back to town. Yeah, you go back to the town. You stay there for a few weeks. You recover. Your hit points are fine. Everything's okay. Off you go on another adventure. Whereas in this, that isn't the case. Unless you've got money to get a nice tavern and live comfortably for a bit, you're not going to recover from certain psychological and physical conditions necessarily. So it means having money is important. You can set up camp. Are you going to light fire? If you light fire, there's risks of things finding you. If you don't light a fire, you're going to be cold, and that brings risks. It's that kind of game, but focuses on the things. Me and you, hand wave all the time.
Yeah.
God knows why I want to run it.
listening to that, I'm thinking, over the weekend, I was reading the Forbidden Lands bestiary that I bought at Expo. And it really made me want to play Forbidden Lands. And there's a bit of that in that, because obviously it's a Year Zero engine, but it really plays into the resource management and a sense of that post-apocalyptic gloom that, that all your comforts are withdrawn from you, and that, part of surviving is just not fighting monsters, it's just getting through the day. Is part of the drive of the player characters.
And you can see there are actually some parallels with the Year Zero system in Torchbearer. It's not the same, but it uses a D6 dice pool thing, similar kind of thing, but it has like conditions as well. So you don't have hit points, but you get conditions like injured or wounded or certain psychological conditions that you can get. So there are some parallels.
I went for a sort of demo game. It was a return trip for me. I played 2D20 Conan, which I love, and I would love to play more of. We're doing a campaign at the moment, aren't we? Once a month, but it it's a game that literally needs momentum, and it doesn't feel like enough playing it once a month. So it was good to go back. Last year I played with Remy Fayomi, and he runs a really good game with that idea of demonstrating a system, showing what it's capable of. And, last time when we talked about gamer bling and what to bring to the table, I've never seen anybody manage gamer bling quite like Remy. He brings to the table a stack of cards with all the NPCs. You're sort of generating the adventure as you're playing. This was a piracy one, and we could sail the seas and exploring different islands, and that was great fun. But he has a stack of NPCs that he pulls out of his hat and puts in there, and he's got little ships that we could move along our map, and floor plans for the docks. It's really, really good, really inventive and exciting. And the other thing that he does really well is he's a fan of the players, but he encourages the leaning into, to use that terrible expression, leaning into the cliches and tropes of Conan. So I always come away, I did last year and I did this time, really feeling that I've been in the world of Conan.
I must sign up to one of Remy's games, because you played two now and speak very highly of them and enjoyed them. I must try that. Again, it's sometimes a problem at Expo that things don't fall quite how you want.
And this doesn't put me in a good light, but the game ended and I had a little moment to myself. I bought a burrito and a beer, and I sat by the lakeside on my own. It was a nice sunny day, wasn't it? The weather was glorious. I sat there and I did have a little moment to myself thinking, I knew that up ahead we were going to have a night of socialising and it was going to be fun. Oh, this is the best in life, isn't it? To quote Conan. This is brilliant.
Here I am with my beer and my burrito, just having a quiet moment.
I felt, as I said earlier, it felt like a privilege to be there, and I acknowledged the privilege being there. And then I stood up and realised I'd been sitting in duck shit, and so my pants were covered in duck shit.
That's the gods cursing you for not playing any RuneQuest at Expo.
Yeah. So it was the bar, and that was great, righteous fun. There was some heated debates going on, though, weren't there?
There were some heated debates, yeah.
We tried our best to navigate our way out of them, didn't we? We didn't want.
We do. We had to try and navigate.
Last thing we want is controversy, isn't it?
You don't want controversy. That's not our thing at all.
I think the most heated debate is who is responsible for a bad game. So when a game goes bad at a convention, who's responsible?
And that's interesting, that actually. And I didn't mention this in the bar, but the guy who ran Torchbearer for us had an anecdote about how he'd had a bad experience at Expo. I think it was at Expo. I could be wrong. I think it was at Expo a few years ago, but at a convention anyway, where some people had turned up and they all seemed to be mates, and they turned up to his game, and he'd said they hadn't really played the game in the right spirit. They'd just done whatever they wanted. They'd then written to him. I don't know, they got in contact, written to him, giving him some award for the worst game they'd played that year. It was his game or something.
That's terrible. That is terrible.
It's not a thing I'd admit to whenever I was running the convention game. But the guy, I mean, in fairness, the guy ran a perfectly good game. I think he ran a perfectly good game with Torchbearer. He did a good job of explaining the complicated system to people some who've never read the rules. So, credit to him. There's certainly no indication from my point of view that there was anything wrong with the way he ran a game. And I think what came across was maybe it was them. Maybe it was the players. There is this temptation, isn't there? And this was part of the heated debate in the bar, that it's all on the games master.
Yeah.
That if it's a bad game, it's the games master's fault. And I'm not sure that's true, even though the games master is in control to some extent of the game. I don't think it's always the games master's fault.
Yeah, but I think some of the discussion was around: is it appropriate if it's going badly and there are disruptive players to stop the game, to stop it, just end it at that point? I think that's what the discussion was, because if there's bad behaviour taking place, then you just stop the game. But I don't know, that seems like a drastic action, doesn't it?
I think it depends. I think it depends on the action of the players. I mean, I was in a game once, and it wasn't a particularly bad game, but it was a game of 5th edition D&D at Expo. And I think it might have been the second time I went, and it was on the Friday night, which I've never done again. I've never played a game in the evening at Expo. And it was me and about 4 mates, all knew each other, who were the other players. They'd all had a skinful. I wouldn't say they were disruptive. They weren't unpleasant, but they were pissed. I suppose there's a tipping point, isn't there? As a games master, tipping point where you think, this is hard work. Are these people drunk? Are these people being unpleasant to other players? There's all those kind of things where maybe as a games master, you have an obligation to manage the game, and you have an obligation to manage the players and deal with players who might be say something that's a bit out of order, or say something or do something that's a bit out of order, or not participate in the right way. You have to manage that as a games master. But maybe there is this sort of, I can't quite define it, but a kind of tipping point where you think, hang on, the behaviour has got so out of hand that I'm going to abandon this. That's it.
Yeah.
I don't know what a tipping point would be.
my response would probably be to fake my own death and leave it at that.
The duck shape broke me. That's it.
After that heated debate, it was that enraged don't come into it. It was another Uber trip, wasn't it, back to Birmingham?
Yeah, he made a similar mistake, the Torchbearer GM, in the way the Torchbearer GM said, I was accused of running the worst game someone ever did. That's a mistake. Don't admit to that. The Uber driver admitted that he missed the junction on the motorway.
Yeah.
No. Martin was with us, wasn't he? Cookie was with us. I think he's from Birmingham, isn't he? But he did a bit to drink. We're not from Birmingham. We're none the wiser. But he's, I've missed the junction. I'm going to have to go all the way around. Have you? All right. Okay. We don't know. What have you admitted? Don't admit to these things. Keep it yourself.
The roads were closed, weren't they? Because a lot of Birmingham's disrupted, isn't it, by that HS2. And a lot of roadworks doing that. So this great train line that's going to take 20 minutes off the journey time, well, it already owes me, doesn't it? It already owes me because it took 20 minutes longer to get to Birmingham.
He'd added 20 minutes to your journey. He did, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so first time I get on it, all it's doing is breaking even. 20 minutes. Forget the 40 billion or whatever much it cost to build it. Yeah. It owes me 20 minutes.
Oh no, they sat in our chairs.
Sunday morning, we always run a game at Sunday morning, and we always make sure we start a bit later, don't we? 10 o'clock.
We do. Our own some Traveller.
I was playing Elric, which is I suppose the 4th edition of Stormbringer, when it's tidied up a bit. Peter from Australia sent me the rule book and a load of supplements for it, so I was keen to use it. So how did the Traveller game go?
Well, it didn't start off well. So a lot of the games at Expo start at 9, but we decided to start at 10 because they allow you to do different time slots. So I'll start at 10. Bit more of a relaxed journey in to the NEC. Not against the clock at 9 o'clock, which is what we've sometimes had to kind of deal with. The problem was, though, when I went to my allotted room, all the tables had been taken. So that caused a bit of panic, and I had to speak to the so-called room captain. It's like, you imagine it be a man at a desk, wouldn't you? You mean a room captain, just a man at a desk in a hat or a t-shirt going, I'm the room captain, I'm in control of this room. Well,
the very minimum to have a branded t-shirt on.
Yeah, But then I had to interrupt one game. This lady, I said, "Who's the room captain?" She said, "Oh, it's that gentleman there." I said, "Oh, right. Oh, he's running a game." So I had to interrupt his game. That was a bit awkward. And he took me to the desk, and I said, "Well, there's no this. I'll find another table, and we'll tell people." There was another room next door with tables. So I pitched up there, and I said, "Right, well, I'm in the Gladstone room, or whatever it's called. I'm in there instead." He said, "Oh, well, we'll tell." We've had 2 people asking about your game. I said, "Well, tell them I'm in there." So 2 people turned up, but I had 4 players, but the other 2 didn't turn up. Well, the room captain said, "Oh, I'll keep my eye out for anyone coming in." And I thought, "Well, you won't, will you? Because you're running a game, mate. How could I notice someone wandering in looking for my Traveller game?" So I lost 2 players there. Now, it might have been they didn't turn up because there was still a bit of chaos with the trains, wasn't there? So fair enough. But
there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with sticking some paper up on the wall and people ticking off when they arrive. Is there?
I think that's the idea. If there's a so-called room captain, someone in charge of that room, why don't they just have a list of what should be taking place in that room? And just go, right, who are you? You're running, you're running that, right? Yeah, grab a table. You're running that, grab a table. Who are you? Oh, you're not in this room.
So you got players though. You got.
I did get players. I got 2 players, and they said, "Well, we'll play it. We'll run it." You know, it was brother and sister. A couple of youngish. I say youngish. They're in the 30s. You know, these are young people in the 30s. God.
Yeah.
But they'd never played Traveller before. They were keen to play it. They were kind of like played a lot of D&D this edition, but they were, and this is similar to what happened last year. They were kind of at Expo trying different games, you know. So ran Traveller for them, and I have to say, coming back to this theme of players, they were both really good players, and it was a joy to run it for them actually, because they completely engaged with it. And it's probably possible, I'd say, the best game I've run at Expo. It was largely down. It's a good scenario, Flatlined. It's a pre-written one, Mongoose, and it is a great scenario. Great scenario as well for introducing people to Traveller, because what happens in it, you're on a crashed spaceship, and you're in a low berth, and you wake up out of low berth. You survive being defrosted very quickly.
Classic setup, huh?
Classic setup. And it's a bit of survival. There's a bit of skullduggery because you can't remember why you're on low berth. Something's happened to you. You don't remember agreeing to it. So there's a little bit of sort of more to it than just survival. But there's an element of survival where you don't have any equipment. So you don't have that problem that you sometimes get with sci-fi games where people have got lots of stuff. You haven't got any stuff. You got to try and find it on the ship before it sinks, because the ship's in water, taking on water. You've got to get stuff before it sinks. So get a weapon, get some protective clothing, get some food, get all that kind of stuff. And it's a great introduction because you're doing lots of rolls to start with to find stuff and that kind of thing. But you're not overburdened with the technical things of Traveller, you know, where you've got loads of armor, weapons, computers, all that kind of stuff. You might get a medical kit, but all you got to worry about is the accelerator rifle we found in your medical kit, and that's all you got to worry about as a new player. So it's a good intro to the game. But they were excellent players. I really, really enjoyed running it. How did Elric go?
It went really well. It was really good. So this was Begging Nights of Nadsakor, which I've run again this weekend. So exactly a week later, I've run it twice now. And so this is a scenario that I've written set around the events in the Vanishing Tower, where Elric fights this burning god that is in the vaults of Urish, the King Urish's treasure vaults. And so the player characters play knights of King Urish, who are sent off to find a sigil. And this sigil is found in the pendulum in Tanalorn. And I suppose the twist of it all is that because they removed the sigil from this pendulum, it has an effect on events. And so they get like premonitions of their own doom and that kind of thing. So it works really well. And the characters are quite varied because they're a bit grimy and a bit unkempt because they've come from the city of beggars. And so they've got all kinds of enhancements. They're almost like cybernetic knights because they've got various magical enhancements. But yeah, it was good fun. Good fun. Very inventive players. Neil Benson, old Scottish role player, had a bag of rotten potatoes, and he got a lot of value out of those potatoes. They managed to do various things during the morning event. So, and of course, I gave them the choice when they had the sigil. They could either give it back to Urish, they could actually go down to the vaults themselves, control this demon, steal the treasure themselves, and live a high life, or they could go and give it to Elric. And of course, they went and gave it to Elric.
You would do, wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you give it to Elric? If you can meet Elric in the game Stormbringer or Elric, why wouldn't you? You would do, wouldn't you? You've given them a choice there. No choice at all, really, is it?
I did like the look on the faces when they were greeted by Elric, and he said, "Oh, I'm feeling very weak as I face this demon." And they all kind of looked at each other and looked at Stormbringer. Yeah, it was very good. There we go. That was good fun. Good fun for a Sunday morning. And I started it off by unwrapping a Games Master screen. Always get the Games Master screen. That's your motto, isn't it?
Always get it if you can, yeah. Always get it.
So they're quite rare, these Elric Games Master screen. And this one is from the vaults of Chaosium, because Doc Cowie very kindly, very generously bid on my behalf at Chaosium Con and won a cellophane wrapped, a shrink wrapped, the last in the vault, shrink wrapped Games Master screen for Elric. So I unwrapped it, and to use it probably reduced its value by some significant amount by exposing it to the atmosphere.
But there's a bit of screen envy there. I think I would definitely. That's a nice thing to have, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a very good screen as well. Sure. Yeah, I spun that out for a bit as well, unwrapping it, made that as almost like a feature. So we're coming towards the end. We had our bus trip ahead of us. So last look in the trade hall, as is the custom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, last minute and desperate to buy anything. Or is there something stupid there that you may want to buy?
Yeah, well, we'll brush over this bit. Let's get back to the bus.
Well, let's not. You say Elric feeling weak, but I think you were a bit weak, weren't you, in the trade hall? One of the themes of this chat has been don't confess things. So, Games Master, don't confess. Someone said you ran a terrible game. Uber driver, don't confess you've taken the wrong turn. But Dirk, I think you do need to confess what you did in the trade hall, don't you? What you bought. And don't blame me. Don't say it's because I went to the toilet.
You went to the toilet.
Me. But you're a grown person. You can't blame me.
You weren't able to stage an intervention. You chose to go and have a tinkle.
I
was at my most vulnerable.
I had to go for a tinkle. I had to go. Come on. Look at my age. You know what it's like.
Well, early on, I think I mentioned that I saw these Judges Guild deluxe editions of Janelle Jacquet's facsimiles, a book of facsimiles. And I thought, all through the weekend, I was having an internal dialogue with myself. Do I really? They look really? They'd be nice to own them, but really, I can't afford them. Really, can't afford them. Anyway, I was stood there. You went to the loo, right? That's the first thing I'm blaming. The second thing I'm blaming is Paul Baldowski, who was next to me, and I said, "I'm thinking of getting these." He said, "Well, you really should, because you out of anybody will get the most value out of them. You'll play the games in there." And I thought, I didn't really need to hear that at this point. And then Pookie came along, another enabler, a man who's bought, as you know, got 70 items in his bag. He's not going to help me at this stage, is he?
No, quite the opposite.
What he does is he gives me a leverage with the person behind the stall for negotiation, and so then the haggling starts. And I thought, I'm in this now. I can't walk away. Where's Blythe to rescue me at my hour of need? And before I knew it,
tinkle.
My credit card I bought them both. I didn't buy one. I bought them both because I got a better deal on buying both.
I think the only thing from this that surprises me is that you bought them both. Because I have to say, the first time I went to Trade Hall, I said I wanted to find the DCC, the Government Games stall, and we went there and we saw it, didn't we? We saw that big book, saw it, and I knew you'd buy it. As soon as I saw it, I thought he's going to buy that. Yeah, but we're going home with that. I didn't think you buy both. I'll give you that. That was a slight surprise, but it wasn't a surprise that you bought them. I knew you'd buy them. I just sensed it. I've known you long enough to sense it. We went to that stall, and I was looking at the DCC stuff, and I was looking at the little dice tray they do, and I was looking at the rules, or it's £15 or whatever. I thought, oh, that's good. And looking at a few modules and that kind of thing, and I asked him if they had the Dynath stuff there and all that. I thought, he's looking at that big book. He's looking at that big book. He's going to buy that. He won't buy it now, but he will buy it by the end of the weekend.
Yeah,
and you did. Whether I've gone to the loo or not is immaterial. Whether Pookie or Paul were there, immaterial. You were going to buy it. The only thing you could say is that me not being there, you might have just bought one rather than two. But I knew you were going to buy it. I just know. I know you. I know what you like.
But it doesn't stop there, does it? It doesn't stop there because obviously I had the kind of nagging guilt of me paying for it on my credit card and that element of it. But for listeners at home, these things are the size of paving slabs, aren't they?
Yeah, they're huge. I think it's difficult in an audio format such as this to get a sense of the scale of these things. They are huge, aren't they?
Yeah,
yeah, kind of like a paving. Yeah, they're about the size. Yeah, the same size as your average paving stone, aren't they? Really. And about as heavy, to be honest.
About as heavy as well. And you and Jonathan, probably quite rightly, for my penance, said, well, we're not helping you. I had to carry both of them with all my bags to the bus station. Fortunately, we got a taxi. But that's another story. We won't talk about the taxi. The taxi driver wouldn't take any cards. We had to stop off and get some cash out of the cash machine.
To draw cash. It was funny that because we got in the taxi. Because I said, let's get a taxi. You were all for walking across Birmingham. Get a taxi. So he did. He stopped at the cash machine, didn't he? And I drew a tenner. When I stopped, you thought we were at the coach station. Got out with the taxi with your books, and then I had to get back in. And he kind of stumbled out of the taxi carrying these things. We went, right, are we here? So we're not here yet. Get back in. Get back in.
It was a fairly uneventful trip home. Thankfully, the traffic wasn't as bad. I think we got into Charlton Street a little bit earlier, didn't we? But
we did actually. Yeah, it was okay.
Yeah, needed to schlep across town to get the train to home. But they were cancelling them left, right and centre. So I had 10 minutes and I had to run across Piccadilly to get home. And as soon as my wife saw me, do you know what she said to me? She said,
I fully expected you to bring something like that back.
She said, what the hell have you got there? You look like bloody Moses coming down from the mountain.
The 10 Commandments of gaming. Yeah. Was she surprised though?
No, I don't think she was. No,
she wasn't. Neither was I. There you go.
Yeah. Right.
See you later.
See you later. Bye.
There isn't another bit. A reminder that you can hear the full panel discussion over at the Frankenstein's RPG feed. Thanks again to Dave for organising it with Millie and to Paul and Steve for an entertaining discussion. I should also thank Jonathan, our travelling companion, as when we got to Manchester, he did help me carry the books to the train station, albeit reluctantly, mainly because my trousers were falling down. Don't forget, you can support the podcast and its projects by giving us a tip in Patreon. There's a new project starting this month. We are launching Grogvine in July 2023. This is a collaborative journaling project where notebooks will be passed from person to person to build up content, like the old days of the Amateur Press Association, but with added analogue methods. A great chain of ideas passing through the Grog Squad and creating something magical in the process. You can find out more over at thegrognardfiles.com. If you're listening to this at the time of its release, there's still time to sign up to be involved. You'll find a link over on the site. Also in this month, we've launched a request for Games Masters for Owlbear and the Wizard Staff Convention online. Once again, we're supporting this annual event in Leamington to provide a virtual alternative for those who can't make the trip. The convention is taking place over the weekend of the 22nd to the 23rd of September 2023. There are plenty of slots available, and we'd really be interested in seeing your pitches for games. The patrons are the people who keep this going, so thank you to current and past backers for your help in keeping this show on the road. We've had some new people joining, so I'll shout out to them next time and add something wonderful from the virtual table as a thank you. If you like the podcast, please pass it on and let others know. Leave a review wherever you can. It's hard to find new podcasts, so make good use of your word of mouth and pass it on. We'll be back to the usual format next time. We'll be entering the realms of hauntology and the corners of our cities where the hidden can be found. Until then, adios, amigos.